paper one of GS. It is very, I think, one of the most highly covered paper, and it is very good for the sociologists like Sanjita, because social issues plays a very vital role. There was a wonderful question last year, which you have attempted, I believe, that role of women. If we are empowering the women, so how they can control the population. So what kind of dimensions you add in such kind of questions? I want to ask a social issue related question to you, Sanjita, how you, because since you are a sociology expert, sometimes your extra knowledge of social issues emerges. You have to stop, you have to put a break on your, knowledge performance. So what is your take on social issue related question in paper one?
Actually, it comes out of practice, because when we are taught sociology, we always said write sociologically relevant answers. So that somehow creeps into GS as well. And we try to put in a lot of sociological terms, and then it becomes very tough. So what I did was, when we talk about women issues, specifically the NGOs, women civil society organization issues, I used to keep a fact handy, which I can directly put in, and then talk about the problems in a general term, and then talk about the schemes, and then a way forward. So I used to do not putting too much of sociological viewpoint, like patriarchy, and these are very common terms, internalization of patriarchy and all those terms. I do not overload with sociological terms so that it stays general. So I try to do that.
Yeah, there is a very good advice you have tendered right now, that using government schemes in your answers.
Yes.
Because it will give you an edge over the other students who are not using. Muskan, let me ask you one thing about paper one specifically, because it is a wide area to cover. You have to read culture, you have to read art and culture, the history, that is modern history, then world history, then you have to read geography, and then you have to read social issues and whatnot, like concept. They may ask questions on secularism, communalism. So I think it's a very broad paper. When you prepare for prelims, you find it very difficult for doing geography. But here, there is a combination of geography, geography and history, both in a very compact, watertight manner. So do you leave something, because many students are not sometimes handy with the art and culture portion, because I remember a question they asked on the Gandhara art, and they clubbed it with Central Asian region and some Bactrian region. So that was a bouncer to many of the students. Many students came and said, what kind of question they are asking? So how is the strategy on art and culture and history especially?
So it is very unpredictable, and the syllabus is so vast, you can never be like fully prepared. What my strategy was, I stick to my resources. Like, I did not go beyond the NCRTs for ancient and medieval history, and also for the art and culture. I studied the 11th class fine arts NCRT very thoroughly, and most of the questions I was able to answer in the test series, and if not, I did not get disheartened, because there are always some of the answers you cannot answer. So what I used to do was, if anything related I've read already, I would make answer then and there. So it's very important that you should have that presence of mind while writing the answers, because every time you study, you'll leave something. So that is not possible to read each and everything.
Very rightly pointed out. And now coming to the paper two, I want to ask about paper one also. Like these year, the questions they figured out around the combination of environment related to geography. Like there are questions on mangrove depletion, there are questions on global warming. But then there is a separate chapter or separate syllabus for environment in paper three. But UPSC, that's why it is called as Unpredictable Public Service Commission. They can do anything to everything. Now coming to paper two, which is very dynamic, I must say. So what was your approach? Because suppose I give you an example, elections are going on somewhere, general election, then the role of election commission comes into the picture. So what would you advise to the students who are listening to you, that you should take notice of the present situation and go back to the conventional year and read that? Suppose at present you are seeing a lot of anti-defection related news and every newspaper are covering. So how to go with such kind of developments to leverage some potential from these news and write down in your copy? So paper two related to asking this.
Paper two, first of all, your static must be very thorough. So you know which is relevant where. So when some new issues comes to the picture, then you will be able to relate, as you said about anti-defection. So that is when you can relate which all parts and you can add up to that answer. There was a question in GS paper two about Attorney General. which came in last year. So we know about it, but I could not recall the exact article which talks about Attorney General. So as you said, sometimes it's unpredictable. You will not be able to write because Attorney General, I could not recall that it was in the news that time or not regarding anything. So it's not always that there will be something in the news which will come down, but if it comes down, you should have all the correlations that anti-defamation law, parliamentary secretaries, all these things should come into the answer when you're writing. So it will come when you have a very clear understanding of the basics. So I think when that is very strong, all these things naturally flow from your deep-seated knowledge.
Now, Muskan, what do you think? Using articles and amendment in the answer, would it be more helpful or just going with the flow, like if you're not remembering or if you're not putting articles? What is your take on using articles and constitutional amendments and the doctrines in your answers? What is your view on this?
So it's great if we can use all those articles and amendments if we remember, but it's not every time possible to remember everything. So what we can do is, like ma'am said, we should have that basic knowledge, and that way we can connect our answer to the requirements of the question. Sometimes you may not remember, like for the Attorney General question, same went with me as well. I remembered very few things because I was not expecting in a 15-marker question. So that happened with me as well. I just wrote what I remembered. So that we have to do most of the time.
Okay. Now, one more question, which is, last year UPSC asked a question, and I'm predicting the question which is going to come for future, mains exam. Like this year, there are a lot of criticism about WHO's role. USA is putting allegation on China, and WHO is in the news. So last year, there is a question, if you remember. It is some USA's and Israel's putting out of some body, I think UNESCO. So that's why, how do you think that if some news are coming of such nature, which have a political implication of international nature, so how do students should come out? Like if some country is putting allegations, some country is defending. So as a balanced answer, Sanjita, I want to ask you and Muskan, you both, how should one write in that direction so that the answer should not look biased towards USA or towards China? If I'm putting a straight question related to WHO.
So as you rightly said, I always say that when we are preparing, we are in the process of becoming an officer. So you always have to have a neutral, balanced viewpoint. That is very, very important. So when you start writing about WHO, if you have because WHO is in the news, so you should have a background of knowing what WHO has done till date. So when you see the background, you always write that see WHO what all follies it did this time. That clearly everyone, it's out in the open, so we can write it in a balanced way that this is what happened. And then again we can write that when SARS broke out, it was the same WHO which worked day in and day out and made it that it was wonder for the world then. During Ebola also there was some negative perception. So that is how when you follow a news, you should always go back about that organization, be it UNESCO. What all things has it done? It should not be that the UNESCO issue is there right now. So I'll only focus I'll just know where it was formed, where its headquarters was, and then I write about what the issues are. No. What all things UNESCO had done earlier, so that I can relate that what UNESCO or WHO is doing wrong now and how it can be improved. So basically the thing is, when you prepare for this examination, superficial knowledge is not going to help you. Dig deep. Dig deep. Think about that WHO has been an organization for so many years. So if it has existed, it must have done something right, and it has done something wrong now. And how a way forward. Put up a positive way forward that we are a global nation, globalization is on rise. So this organization has to stay. So end it in that balanced way, because think big. Don't think local, think big, how you can represent it in that way. So I think that will work.
Very rightly pointed out. What do you think, Muskan? Like if some organization is in news and in answers, do you find constructive criticism helping the aspirant, or it will go against him? What is your take on this?
So constructive criticism can be there, like what all is going wrong with WHO. We can list in the answer. But what is important, as ma'am also pointed out very nicely, like we need to have a way forward which is balanced. We can list that like in a positive manner, like what all can be done, and suggestions can be given. That way the answer looks balanced, and the examiner gets an idea that we are not just focusing on the single side, because there are two sides to many sides, in fact, to each and every question. So that way we can answer.
Yeah, I think very
Actually progressive. Everything, all answers should be such that we are showing that we are progressive. So
yes, definitely.
Yes.
UPSC is seeking, I think,
Yes.
solution-oriented bureaucrats, not problem identifying bureaucrats.
Yes.